morning and welcome to Real Life. We're so excited to be with all of you today. If I haven't had a chance to meet you, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Pastor Miranda, and I am our student ministries pastor at Real Life. If I haven't met you, I would love to meet you. So let's make sure we meet after service if we don't know each other. This morning, I feel honored and privileged to just continue in our series titled Best Summer Ever. How many of you guys think it's a weird summer? Am I alone? It's kind of weird. Students, we weren't at camp last month. And it's weird that it's August also, by the way. And side note, it's officially my birthday month, just so you know. If you don't know me, I celebrate every day. So, but it's just been a weird summer. It's a different summer. But the cool thing about that is it also provides an opportunity to experience things in a new way, to experience things maybe we never have before. And I am all about trying to find the silver lining in life, because life is hard. Life throws difficult things at us. It throws weird things at us like this summer, but there's always a silver lining if we're willing to look for it. And at the beginning of this whole season of us being a little more isolated, being at home, I really found myself saying, okay, God, what do you want to do with this extra time? Because I can choose to get lost in the feelings of fear and anxiety and worry and all of those things, or I can allow you to do something else. And this is the verse he brought me to, Psalm 91, verse 1. And it says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." And this has become so powerful to me because at the beginning of all of this, in March, I found myself struggling with some of the fear. I found myself struggling with some of the anxiety of being home. I found myself wondering what's going to happen with my job at Fraser. I just found myself with a lot of questions. But when God brought me to this verse, and he just said, just abide in my shadow. Miranda, just abide in my shadow, and it is going to be all right. I said, okay, I can get behind that silver lining. I can get behind that. I can get behind abiding in the shadow of the Lord. And really, throughout this whole season, there is just a worship song that has become just auto on my playlist. It's so funny. I have a list in my Apple Music of worship favorites or whatever. And every time, even if I hit shuffle, this song is always the first song on, inevitably. If I have the radio on and a worship song comes on, this song has come on. And I feel like it's kind of become my anthem. And I just want to read to you part of the song. It starts with, "I'm caught up in your presence. I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment and never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. More than anything you can do, I just want you." The verses of this song is really where God has challenged me. And it says, I'm sorry I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I'm saying just another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. That one kind of got me. I can have an agenda sometimes. I'm sorry when I forget that you're not enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And this has been between this, kind of these verses, and really just that concept of abide. This has been really what I've said, okay, God, this season, when all of a sudden I have free time, which if you know me, you know that I don't normally have free time. God, I want to learn how to do better. I want to learn how to love you more. I want to learn how to truly abide and be okay with sometimes the silence and be okay with those moments of just abiding and resting in your shadow. And that brings me to my first point this morning, which is simply fall more in love with Jesus than you ever have before. Fall more in love with Jesus than you ever have before. Because let's be real, we have the time right now to do things differently. So fall more in love with Jesus. And then as I kind of have just started walking this path really last March, what God brought me to was the story of the woman in the alabaster jar. And I want to read to you the first part of that passage from Matthew 26, verses 6 through 9. It says, when Jesus was at Bethany, a guest of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him as he was eating dinner and anointed him with a bottle of expensive perfume. When the disciples saw what was happening, they were furious. That's criminal. This could have been sold for a lot of money that could have been handed out to the poor. I just love that picture of that moment. Here's this woman who, based upon this passage in Matthew, we don't know who she is. But if you read the story in other Gospels, for example, in John 12, it's safe to say that it's Mary, the sister of Lazarus. But we don't really know a lot about her. We don't know what led her that day to that house where she brought the alabaster jar with her. We don't know for sure how much it cost her to buy that perfume. We really don't know a whole lot about her from the story other than what she did. That's what we know. We know what she did, and she anointed Jesus' head with oil. Jesus the Messiah, the anointed one. And as I kind of was looking into some history on this, I was looking up alabaster jars, and then I remembered that I actually have one that I bought in Egypt a couple years ago. So instead of showing you a picture, I just brought it. And they say that the alabaster jar was a vase-like jar made out of alabaster stone, which this is made out of. I don't have the cork or the top that traditionally would have been on that. But if you kind of do some more digging into the history of this story, they say that there was probably a year's more worth of wages in this jar. Can you guys imagine 1,920 hours of your life in this one jar? Or more, right? We don't know for sure. But she took that jar that day, and in a moment, all of those hours of work, again, 1,920 of hours, assuming you work 40 hours a week, most of you probably work more, was gone in an instant. But she didn't care. It wasn't about what was in this jar in terms of the time and what it cost her. It was about her being able to show her Savior, or to show Jesus, how much she loved Jesus. That's what it was about. I don't know about you guys, but when I think about all of my bills and all the things I have to do with the money that I earn in those hours, that's a really overwhelming thought. To know that that woman put everything else aside and brought that jar that day and anointed Jesus. How many of you guys like to give gifts? Okay, I have to tell you guys a fun story. I got a prize this morning from somebody. I'm not going to name that person because I don't know if they want to be named. But again, it's my birthday month, so prizes are fun. Okay? But if you guys know me, if anyone knows me, even if you don't, if you're students or a youth group and you don't know me very well, you probably know I like pickles. Everyone knows that. But someone got me some lip balm that says, "Keep calm and dilly lip balm." It's so awesome. And it smells like a dill pickle. Yes, I will use it, for sure. It is not gross, it's awesome. No, it's wonderful. Another person once got me dilly-flavored cotton candy. So, I mean, there's lots of options out there. But how many of you guys like giving gifts to people you care about? I want you guys to think about for a second the person that you love the most in terms of like picking a gift out for that person. Because there's people that it's like, I have a couple of people in my life where I'm like, dear Jesus, help me. I never know what to get this person. But there's the people that you're like, man, I love giving this person a gift because they appreciate it and they're excited about it. And it's just fun to give people we care about gifts. One of the people I loved buying gifts for in my life was my grandpa. Christmas was like this wild adventure of figuring out, what can I get grandpa this year? I'd always get him a Barnes & Noble gift card because we just knew like he liked books. But I always tried to find something super fun, special to us to attach that gift card to give to him every year. And it was so fun. And the whole time I was like trying to figure out what to give my grandpa, what was I thinking about? My grandpa, right? I was thinking about what would he like? What would that moment be when he opened that gift? What would he do with it? Where would he put it in his house? If it was a funny joke, how hard would he laugh? Like, it was just always really, really fun. So when I think about what the woman in this story did, where she gave Jesus the gift of all gifts, I think about, again, how much intentionality I would try to put in the gifts I would give my grandpa. Man, how much more should I be putting into the intentionality of the gifts that I give Jesus? I love my grandpa. My grandpa was one of the most important people in my life when he was alive, but I really love my Jesus a whole lot. And the thing that I love about this story, because again, I think a year's wage in this little jar. That day, Mary didn't give it to Jesus dragging her feet in the ground. She didn't give it to Jesus kicking and screaming. She didn't give it to Jesus with a hesitant heart. She just said, Jesus, here it is. I break this jar and I want to anoint you with this amazing fragrance. She was happy to give it all to Jesus. So happy. In that chance, she was able to demonstrate her devotion to him. She was able to demonstrate honor. She was able to demonstrate a desire to live a life of repentance. And again, she didn't do it with any sorrow. If anything, maybe she was sad that she couldn't have given him a little more. Not that she had to give him what she was giving him. And what does this have to do with falling more in love with Jesus every day? Really, the journey that God has been bringing me on is, Miranda, I want you to have that kind of encounter with me every day. Every day, I want you to figure out what is the best that you're supposed to give me today. Recognizing that that's going to look different from day to day, right? And that's okay. Jesus understands our lives, but Jesus deserves our best. And not just in holiday times or not just at camp or youth convention, but every single day, he deserves our best. And the thing that is so cool about God is that if we fall short of that, he doesn't hold it against us. He loves us no matter what. And every day is a new opportunity to say, okay, what's my best look like today? Today, Jesus, what is that gift supposed to look like? What is that sacrifice supposed to look like? What today do you want me to give to you? And I've just been really, really challenged to think about, how does this really apply to my everyday? And the cool thing is, again, this season kind of started with me and Jesus, in a season where I all of a sudden have time to ponder these things. And then life started to kind of go back to normal-ish, right? Life started to open up again, and things started to open up, and we're able to see people. And you guys, how quickly I started to fill my schedule again. How quickly, so stinking quickly, with great things, not bad things, things that were God-honoring even. But then one morning, I was out on a run, and Jesus said, Miranda, you're doing good things, but don't go backwards. Don't go back. Don't let this season of the past 5 months become just a moment we had. Protect it, cherish it. Continue to give me your best every day. Keep doing the good things, but keep that margin. That's kind of been my word, is margin. Keep that margin in your life, because it's in that margin that has provided room for God to do things in my life that I never thought possible the past few months. But if I don't protect some of that margin to give to Jesus, then all of a sudden I'm not hearing him quite as well. And it's not because he's not there and not speaking, it's because I'm too busy. I'm too busy to catch it. So God has just kept saying, slow down. Slow down. Even when life opens up, just find ways, find the things to slow down. And here is the thing, you guys, when you do that, there's going to be people in your life that do not understand. There's going to be people in your life that are upset that maybe you can't go to whatever event they want you to go with them to, or you can't spend that time, or whatever it is. There's going to be people that don't understand. And you know what? That is okay. That is okay. It is completely okay. And really, at the end of it, I love some of those people that have maybe not understood and have maybe questioned. But again, I love where I'm at with Jesus right now a whole lot more. And it's not that I'm cutting those people out of my life. It's nothing like that. I'm just redefining some healthy boundaries, which is good. Healthy boundaries are very, very good. Because you know what? What I have gone through with Jesus is so worth some of the pain of saying no to people, or saying no to certain things, saying no to movies, saying no to whatever it is that God's asking you to say no to. For example, one of the things that I used to have a really bad habit of doing, because again, a lot of you guys know me, I work a lot between my 2 jobs, is on the weekend, I would guard my Saturday to binge Netflix, which is so stupid. I look back now and I'm like, not that there's not those moments, right? Because we need those moments where we can just shut our brain off and just be. But man, when I have a free day, I don't want that to be my default. It can even maybe be part of my day. Like students, video games, that's all I'm gonna say. It can be part of my day. Video games, yeah, it can be part of my day, but it doesn't need to be 10 hours of my day, okay? I can watch a couple episodes of my show, and then I can make sure I still go do something with just me and Jesus where I'm giving him my best. Because the return on that time is so much better than the return, Pastor Jim, be prepared for what I'm about to say. It's more important than Gilmore Girls to me. Again, he knows, anyone on staff knows, I love that show. I've watched it a crazy amount of times that it shouldn't even be admitted publicly. And as much as I love that show, and as much as that show kind of helps me just turn off life for a little bit so I can recharge, it doesn't do anything for me like that time with Jesus does. It's not even comparable, not even in the same spot at all. So then you fast forward about a month and a half when Jesus and I have kind of been on this journey of what does my best gift look like during this reclaimed season of time? And then that's when we our city walked through a really hard thing, the murder of George Floyd. And where I found myself after that experience was asking this question of, how can I do better? What is my part in helping find a solution to systemic racism? What do I need to do different? And simply this, how do I love all people well? Everybody, regardless of who they are, what they look like, their background, if we have a different culture, if we have different opinions, that one can be hard. If we have different life circumstances, even for me, during that season, wrestling through how do I love people well that have maybe not intentionally shown racism towards me as an Indigenous person? How do I love them well? Because there's not a get out of jail free card when it comes to how we love people. Not if you read scripture. It's pretty clear that God is asking us to love people well. But how in the world do we do it? That's a question I've been asking. A lot of you guys know I work in the mental health field. I'm a fixer by nature. Literally, that is what I am paid to do full-time every week, is sit down with a family. They tell me the barriers they're experiencing, the problems they have going on, and my job is to help find a solution. I'm literally paid to fix problems. And you guys, I love it because it's something that God has naturally wired me to do. I think he's gifted me at my job. I think I do a great job for families. But the problem is, sometimes, even in our greatest strengths, we can completely miss what God is trying to do, even when those strengths are from him. So what I found myself asking is, how do I love people the way Jesus would love them? Not the way Miranda would love them, not through the lenses that I see, but through the lens of Jesus. Which leads me to my second point is, see Jesus, or see people through the eyes of Jesus. That's true love. Now, when we jump into this next portion of Scripture, hang with me. It may not feel like it applies, but it does. We'll come full circle, I promise. So just hang with me. In verses 10 through 13, again of Matthew 26, it says, when Jesus realized what was going on, he inverted. Why are you giving this woman a hard time? She has just done something wonderfully significant for me. You will have the poor with you every day for the rest of your lives, but not me. When she poured this perfume on my body, what she really did was anoint me for my burial. You can be sure that wherever in the world the message is preached, what she has just done is going to be remembered and admired. What Mary did that day was an example to us to look at extravagant love. Extravagant love, extravagant gift giving to her Jesus. She was not afraid of public opinion. Her love freed her from that fear. She was not afraid of doing something extravagant or out of the ordinary. And when she did that, what happened? People challenged her. People questioned her. But if you caught this in this little passage here, what happened? Jesus defended her. Jesus had her back. Jesus did not leave her in that moment of criticism alone. He was right there saying, no, what she has done is marvelous. What she has done is amazing. And Jesus views extravagant sacrifice as a beautiful thing. The disciples were hesitant. They said it was too much. But Jesus said, no, it's beautiful. God gave us an extravagant gift in Jesus Christ. I think we'd all agree with that, right? Because of that gift, we have salvation. It's an outrageous gift worth more than any of us deserve. Worth so much more than any of us deserve. Grace is extravagant. And Jesus gave everything he had for us, literally his life. For a whole world, yet the whole world doesn't even accept him, right? They don't know, not everyone knows him. And some people looked at this as a waste, and they thought about, man, think about all the people we could feed with this. Think about all the things we could do. But again, it wasn't a waste. It was a sacrifice. It was an act of love. It was an act of extravagance. And some people said, this cannot be normal. How many of you think it'd be normal if you drained your checking account and savings account into this jar and said, here you go. It's not normal, right? It's not. But here is the thing. Honestly, is there anything ordinary about the God we serve? No, there's not. The God we serve is unordinary. The God we serve, when we look at what he's done for us with our human eyes, it doesn't make sense. But you know what? He did it anyway. He did it anyway. We need to demonstrate our love for him the same way Mary did, with a supreme focus on him, a single-minded love that counts everything lost for Jesus Christ, a love that does not know how little you can get by with, a love that's not worried about public opinion, and a love that is no longer concerned about what is in the boundaries of normal devotion. A love that's willing to be extravagant, a love that's willing to give. Now you might be wondering, okay, Miranda, what does this have to do with you loving other people better, or us as a church loving others well? Here's the thing, when you hear this story, I don't know, if you're like me, I have to believe that in that moment, when people were criticizing her, and Jesus turned and said, no, what she is doing is beautiful, I have to believe that that encounter with Jesus changed her life. I believe that wholeheartedly, because I think of moments I've had and I wasn't sitting like in front of Jesus with him looking at me, moments where he came to my defense. Man, it changed my life. So imagine how much more this woman sitting in front of Jesus. Imagine what that moment would have been like. Imagine about what maybe she learned in that moment about Jesus and his love and the way he views her, right? Because what did he do? He defended her in that moment. And what God has challenged me is that the closer we live to him, the further away we get from our own bias. And I don't know about you guys, I have bias. We all do, right? It doesn't make us bad people. It just makes us human. It's part of the human condition. So the closer I can get to Jesus, the further I get away from how I look at a situation and how I look at a circumstance. The closer I get to Jesus, the more I'm seeing people through his eyes and not my eyes. Because when I look at things through my eyes, I can see what I consider to be the need. I can see what I think they may want as an expression of love. But the reality is, what they may be needing may be completely different than what I see. Because again, I'm looking at it through my eyes. And the thing I love about Jesus and about God, like I look around this room, some of you guys have been serving Jesus for a really long time. And some of you, this is a new journey. But the awesome thing about serving the Lord is there's always more. It doesn't matter how long you've served him. It doesn't matter how many times you've read the Bible cover to back. It doesn't matter how many times you prayed. It doesn't matter. There's always room for more. We never reach that limit where it's like, done, arrived, perfection. Like, that's not a thing. There's always room for more. So because of that, again, I have to believe the more time we spend with him, the more we become like him. The more we see things the way he does. The more we filter things through his eyes than our own. I don't know about you guys, when you spend a lot of time with people, what happens? You kind of become like each other. You can finish sentences. You know what they're going to order at every restaurant you go to. You can maybe catch on to maybe saying the same phrases as them. Like I catch myself if I'm spending time with one friend a lot, like repetitively, all of a sudden I'm saying some of their key phrases, and then I'll quit hanging out with them for a while for whatever reason, and all of a sudden I stop saying it. But there's something about the way we function as people, the people we're around, we become like. One of my mentors, I heard this as a student, I've heard her say it now as an adult who's in a program with her, Jeannie Mayo. One of the things she always says is, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And man, that is true. It was true when I was a high schooler. It is true now, and it's because we become like the people we're around. So if I want to learn how to love people well, if I want to learn how to do this better, I think it's all about spending more time with Jesus, falling more in love with him every single day, catching on to his cues and the things that he does and the way he loves us. Because again, if I can look at a situation through his eyes, man, I'm going to be able to love that person way more accurately to what they actually need versus like case manager eyes, where I can look at it through my lens. And that's really, you guys, the journey God has been bringing me on. And I'm really glad that I remembered I had this. Literally, I was looking at a picture on Google, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's sitting in my living room. It was, sitting right by my TV. Because since I realized this was sitting in my living room, I've kind of just left it sitting in a place by my work computer, so I see it every day. And every day, literally, I've started my day with, okay, God, today, what is the best? What can I give you today? That's different than yesterday, because today's a new day. What can I give you today? And I feel like I can confidently say I'm loving people a lot better today than I was in April. Because there is something that has shifted in my walk with the Lord during this time where our world is it feels like it's imploding a little bit. During this time where I've chosen to separate myself from negative things. I'm going to be real. Like, social media and I are not friends. Like, we never really were. I don't really like social media, but now I want to fill my mind with good. Yes, I still watch the news once a day to make sure I'm an informed adult, but I don't sit and watch it all day long. I want to be filled with what God has to say, because the more that I'm growing close to him, and the cool thing about it is growing close to Jesus, literally I'm going through this every day saying, God, I want to give you my best just because I want to. And a natural byproduct of that action is learning how to love others better. I'm not going to God saying, God, here's my agenda, teach me to love. I'm just saying, God, here's my gift today. Teach me more about you. And then naturally, that is what flows out of you, is a love for people that is greater than anything we could ever do on our own. And as I get ready to close today, I just want to tell you guys a story about a student that I worked with several years ago. His name was George. George, okay, honestly, as I was thinking about George this past week, he is like another form of like a Micah Pennington, who we all know. George was a student at my former church. He lit up a room. All he had to do was walk in, and everyone felt better. He was such a gift. He was such an amazing student. But the cool thing about George is if you took time to hear his story, man, he had to fight to get where he was. His family was a first-generation family to America, and the things that they had gone through when they were still in Uganda and then coming into America, the things that George had to fight through are unlike any that I've ever heard. But you know what's really cool? Is Jesus got a hold of George, and his life changed. Because all of a sudden, he wasn't trying to fix all these things on his own. He was going to Jesus with his alabaster jar saying, here's my best, teach me how to be better. On March 8th, 2011, George was killed by a drunk driver. Him and his girlfriend. They were driving to his girlfriend's house, and they just got hit. And in seconds, their life was gone, both of them. I had seen George a few days before the accident, and we were spending time talking about how he was doing. He was finishing his first year of college, and he was doing so great. And there's just something in that moment when I found out what happened to George, my heart just broke. It was like, man, here is this young person, again, so similar to Micah's story, who had so much that they were excited to do for the kingdom of Jesus. And in a moment, their story changed. A few days after the funeral, I was able to go to like a candlelight service at Armstrong High School. That's where George went to high school. And I was just surrounded by hundreds of teenagers that were talking about George. And you know what almost every single one of them talked about? His smile. The common thread was, man, no matter what you're going through, when you see his smile, you know it's going to be all right. I really believe what people were seeing when they saw George's smile, what people were seeing when they saw Micah smile, was they were seeing the heart of Jesus. And they knew it was going to be okay. George left a legacy. Micah left a legacy of loving people well. And I think we are in such a unique season of life with everything going on in the world around us, that God is saying, come on, church, it's time to fall in love with me so that I can be a byproduct of you loving others. It's time for us to take this really serious, to take it to a new level, because again, no matter where we are, there is room for more. There is room for more, no matter where we are. So what I want to do today to end is I'm going to ask everyone to stand. And I'm going to ask you to, go ahead, stand. You can do it. And I want you guys to close your eyes. And I'm going to read to you another account of this story that we talked about today. And I want you to try to put yourself in this room. And after I read this to you guys, the worship team is going to lead us in one more song before we close out our time. But I think we need to take a minute and hit pause and reflect before we just walk out the doors and get ready for another busy week. The scene is the house of Bethany. Jesus is present. The house is full of people. You're standing against the wall near the door, watching everything that's taking place. You notice a woman enter the room. She hesitates, but only for a moment. You see fear in her eyes, but there's also something else in her eyes and in her expression: determination. She stands near the door and scans the room until she sees Jesus. Her eyes soften, and her fear seems to evaporate instantly. You watch as she walks over to Jesus, She doesn't say a word, but tears are streaming down her face. Yet she doesn't wipe them away. Maybe she doesn't even notice them. Stopping next to Jesus as he reclines at the table, she pulls out a beautiful alabaster jar. She breaks it open, and an amazing fragrance fills the room. Then she begins pouring the contents on Jesus' head. The room has grown silent, and everyone is now staring at her. She either doesn't notice or doesn't care. People begin murmuring to each other, complaining. They don't like that she's at this party. They don't approve of her and don't like what she's doing. They say she's wasted a lot of good perfume on Jesus, more than a year's wage worth. Now they're asking her to leave Jesus alone and go away. The woman's tear-filled eyes look only at Jesus. She's smiling at him, and her face is a picture of peace. How can that be? Everyone is looking at her and speaking so harshly. No one thinks she belongs there. Well, no one except Jesus. He smiles and looks at her with love and gentleness. He speaks to the people sitting around him firmly and tells them to leave her alone. He looks into her eyes and tells the others that she has done a beautiful thing for him. He bends low and speaks quietly to the woman. Look at Jesus' eyes and realize why this woman isn't afraid. Who could be afraid when the eyes of love look into your soul? What if those eyes looked at you that way too? Would you become bold and unafraid, not caring what anyone else thinks? Do you want him to look at you? Do you want to be the one Jesus sees, the one Jesus defends, and the one Jesus intimately speaks with? Suddenly, Jesus turns his head towards you. His eyes seem to look inside of you with love and delight. He smiles. How do you respond? Do you return his gaze? Now he's motioning you over to him. You're invited to spend time with Jesus, not caring what anyone else might think. Respond with your heart, noticing if you approach him or not. Say, do, and be whoever you truly are in front of Jesus. God, we thank you for today. God, we thank you that we have an opportunity every single day to bring you our best, to give you the best gift, the best extravagant sacrifice. God, I pray you teach us how to exercise that on a daily basis. God, I pray, God, that we would have such a desire to fall so in love with you, simply to know you more. God, I pray you would challenge each individual today, because again, no matter where we are in our walk with you, there is room for more. In your name, amen.